Good evening. Welcome to the regular Planning Commission meeting, Grand Blanc Township, January 9th, 2025. Who you talking to? Somebody out in the hall.
Here we go.
Please rise and join us in Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Send this.
Yes, ma'am. Is that everybody?
Everybody that's here.
Wasn't on.
Planning Commission members present this evening. We have Ms. Hugo, Mr. Andre, Ms. Coulter, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Gellings, Mr. Bush. From Planning and Zoning, we have Mr. Jeremy Smith, and from Giffords Webster, we have Mr. Andy Amat.
Yep.
Okay. This would be an opportunity for public comment. I don't see anyone present in the audience. We'll open it up just in case someone's hiding. Anyone that would like to address the Planning Commission? No one has raised their hand or indicated such. We'll close the public comment portion, bring it back up to the Planning Commission for approval of the minutes, December 5th, 2024. We don't have our new secretary here, but I don't know, I've gone through them.
Yeah, Mr. Yancho, before he moved over to the new treasurer's office, he had given my assistant Chanel the proper review on the last minutes. And I believe Mr. Hoffman has seen them as well, too. So between the two gentlemen, they've been vetted, and I believe everything is in order.
Didn't see any issues. Anybody?
Move for approval.
Support. Motion by Mr. Bush to approve the minutes of December 5th as presented, support by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes at 7? Yeah, I can go to 7-0. Any changes to this evening's agenda?
None?
I'll make a motion to approve this evening's agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion to approve the agenda by Mr. Anderson, support by Mr. Johnson. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes 7-0. Correspondence?
None, but you do have a Excel spreadsheet that goes along with new business item 7A. So that's what is in front of you today. We don't need a different new business agenda item. We don't need a B because it still falls under text amendment discussions.
Okay. Believe we have any old business?
None?
So that brings us to our text amendment discussion. Who's going to lead this one?
Let me start. Yeah, so in front of you, you have a memo from Giffords Webster, Jill and Andy, regarding something that I have been dealing with in recent months regarding some directional signs, if you will. In the ordinance, it doesn't discuss how many, how big are allowed. So the reason for the memo and the potential changes that we should look at is such. It can get out of hand. It could get out of hand. Thankfully, I've been able to thwart any applications that have come in so far, but I may not be so successful on the next one. So I'd ask that we can get some kind of quantity and square footage at a minimum put in there so that way there isn't any gray area going forward.
So this has been becoming an issue?
Yes. I won't give examples, but
That's fine.
it is an issue. So my initial thoughts were the signage, based on what I've seen around at other businesses, McDonald's at Fenton and Hill, they have 2 egresses on that site, and they have a 3-foot-high pole sign with a 4-foot square foot sign at the top of that pole. It says in and out. And they have that at both, one on Fenton and one on Hill.
Is it 4 square foot?
So they have 4 square foot at each one, roughly,
So 4 square feet, 3 feet high?
correct. 2 by 2 or 4 by 1, however it needs to be. My theory is that this is not a marketing opportunity, this is a directional opportunity to direct traffic. This is not a advertising, putting your, even though you could, I just don't want it to get out of hand. And the examples that I've dealt with, that was, in my opinion, the ploy, was to have more marketing, especially at the road. And I feel that is not the appropriate location when you have a monument sign and large wall signs. That is not needed. Something else to consider is if you only have one ingress egress, is a in and out sign needed? If you have 2 entrances, then an in and an out makes sense, more sense to me in that aspect. When you have, because we require painted arrows on the entrances of all the businesses. I understand we live in Michigan, and sometimes they will be covered in snow, sometimes they will get worn, but that's on my department to make sure that those parking lots are kept up to the site plan standards. So that's just a thought also to add on top of all this. That's not something that I may not be, we need to look at, but height and square footage and quantity is something that I think at a minimum we need to look at. Or at least give me the discretion for quantity. Height and square footage, I think, should be black and white. Or give site plan review, however you want to do it. I don't think signage number should, in my opinion, that's not something that anybody here needs to see. That's a day-to-day operations thing that I can handle. But at a minimum, those 3 items.
If you have the signs that you mentioned at 3 foot high, and it is in and out in the same drive, is there a possibility that the cars block? Do they need to be slightly higher?
We kind of looked at that because in my office, we had a yardstick and we were kind of simulating where 3 foot would be. And if I'm sitting in a normal car, 3 foot, I believe, comes up to about the top of this dais, or maybe about here. So you may block it, yes, but if you get any higher, now you're impeding vision coming either direction down the road.
Mr. Bush?
I guess I'll start first, and I'm going to go along with what Mr. Smith said. We all live in Grand Blanc. We all know where that McDonald's is. We all know it's in and out, not up and down. These signs are not necessary for in and out of any driveway in any business. We all drive cars. We have for a long time. I don't need someone that says in. And every driveway is in and out. So why would we have a sign there anytime?
Not necessarily. A lot of the new, especially down Saginaw Street, prime example is in front of Panera, you have a right out only.
Okay,
I know.
so 1 out of 1,000.
I know, and I agree with you, but I'm just saying there are those cases that may warrant a in and out, and in my opinion, an in and out may only be needed if you have multiple entrances.
Even then, why?
Even then, like I said, that's not something that I feel is a necessity, but height, square footage, and quantity, I think we really need to narrow that down.
I'm gonna,
Mr. Anderson?
if I may, thank you. I think in multiple businesses where they have them, and it's beneficial to traffic flow, banks and so forth, drive-up pharmacies, although that's no longer really as much of an issue as it used to be. So yeah, we do need to kind of address that. My thought is, picturing myself, I drive a car, not an SUV. Depending on how it's placed, 4 feet is kind of high, so I would think 3-foot standard would be my preference. And I would say, again, maybe how to word it, we're leaving it up to your discretion, but 1 per driveway. Unless you've got some other opinions, I'd be glad to hear what your thoughts are.
That, one on either side of the driveway is the typical norm. If you go back to the McDonald's example, they have at each, on the corner, they have an in and an out on each.
Okay, on each side of the driveway, okay.
Yep. So that I don't have a concern with.
I have a question. I was looking at the current zoning ordinance rules it says that signs not requiring a permit, traffic control signs on private property such as stop, yield, restricted parking, blah, 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 which meet traffic engineering standards. So are there sort of some general traffic engineering standards that we might want to look at on this issue?
There would be like a size for a stop sign.
Yeah.
In stop signs, I'm not worried about, this is a directional sign. This is not your typical stop, yield, street signs, things of that sort, that actually are supposed to be 4, 5, 6 foot high, whatever height those are. This is specifically for directional, in and out, and or informational directional. Let's just say you're at a car wash and you're supposed to go around the backside of the building. If you say, okay, there's a directional sign that says entrance this way, vacuums this way, okay, fine. Again, that's the quantity is where I'm saying, if you leave it at my discretion, or you say up to 4 or 5, however we want to word that, you can say up to 4, up to 5, or.
Do we want to require these?
I would want these to be part of their sign package, yes, and have these permitted
If they
now.
propose them.
Correct.
Yeah, I would say if they're proposing, but we're not going to say you have to have it in.
No, you are not required to have them, but if you are going to request them, I want them to be permitted now. Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Andre.
Thank you. What I would consider this is like what we would call wayfinding signs, right? So wayfinding, how does it provide direction? I don't see the benefit, with Mr. Bush, I don't see the benefit of having a wayfinding sign at the entrance of a location because you're already at that entrance. And that's the purpose of having the demarcation of a monument sign. That is the delineation for that. So I don't see the benefit in that location in particular. Inside a property, I do think there's sometimes going to be benefits if you have multiple businesses within that property. So if you go across the street from McDonald's, right, and then you see now that there's multiple businesses where Starbucks and so that might be helpful to, as we're talking about, as we're seeing retail centers now have these end cap drive-throughs and different things like that. Wayfinding for those types of purposes, I see value in that, and I do. At the entrances, I don't. Height it could be a little bit of a sensitive thing. So when I look at clear vision, when you're looking at an intersection at a clear vision, if you're looking not just linearly on a plan, but if you're actually looking at the projection, we typically take that at 3.5 feet. That's where the eye line typically is in a typical car. SUV is going to put you up a little bit higher. So 3.5 feet is kind of that criteria. I would say that a height no more than 3 feet, and that would be the top height of the sign itself, would be no more than that.
Yes.
And then the last thing I would say is I would then restrict it. If they want to put any type of advertising on it, if they want to put their logo, any of that, that should count towards their overall sign square footage available to the property.
Yes.
If they don't, then to me, that's a wayfinding. So, thank you.
And if I may, in part of this, I think part of the directional thing was my own fault in the memo, but I do think we should probably be careful about directional versus informational versus marketing, because then that means you're reading the sign, which means it's content-based, and we'd want to stay away from content-based. So really, if we have these signs, we should probably call them more additional signs, would be a better term, because they could honestly be either providing a very good purpose of wayfinding, as Mr. Andre said, or they could be showing the monthly deal for the coffee. They could be used for either. And because they're on-site additional signs is kind of, I think, the way we want to phrase it. And I think that was my own fault for mentioning the word directional, but I think it's because we all know what kind of directional signs mean in that sense. But I don't think there's a way you can prevent somebody from showing the monthly deal or traffic flow this way on such sign,
I think.
because that's content.
I think with the square footage, that'll eliminate a lot of that.
So if we say additional signs, if provided, meet these requirements.
Yeah.
Another caveat too, I'd like to, everyone to think about is making them so they cannot be, put it in black and white that says they cannot be in the right of way. I know that might be a given, but the monument sign says that you have to be 10 foot behind the right of way line. Now, I don't know if we want to make that the same. And my argument is that now you're going to impede, depending on which way you're coming with traffic, you may not see the in or the out sign. If the monument sign is right at the 10 foot behind the right of way line as well. So something else to consider is location, if at the road.
Mr. Anderson?
Can we put in there, or what would your thoughts be on putting it that it cannot be electronic signs? Be illuminated, but not, you can't scroll through and say $2 off Wednesdays or anything like that?
We can, I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah, we could
You could just
not
say
allow
limited,
electronic.
any logos or any script are limited to logo of said business and in and out or left turn only or however we want to word
One
that.
I'm thinking of is Culver's.
Yeah.
You pull in there, again, it's a multiple business share, you pull in there, there's a little sign that's got their logo on it and it says drive-through.
Yep,
It looks nice.
that's it. That's all we want.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Bingo.
We can do a little bit of research and see if we can kind of carve out a little difference for that, for kind of the exit and entrance direction, and see, that might be allowed by the content-based neutrality regulations that we need to adhere to. I know for a fact that if a right-of-way authority is requiring a no right turn or no left turn, that can be done
In the right-of-way.
in the right-of-way, and that's not a content-based sensitivity, sensitive topic for us. But I know that when you're within the site and you start to kind of blur those lines of a logo that shows an arrow versus a bulletin board that shows the monthly deal, then I think we're kind of venturing into tough territory.
And I definitely want more scrutiny on the ones at the road.
Yeah.
The ones inside the site, I don't really have too much heartburn over what they say. As long as they're not changeable, it needs to be a permanent sign that says this way or that way, or this is the drive-through's this way, the vacuums are this way, or whatever it is. No, it shouldn't be changeable, I guess is my
Yeah,
point. It
yeah.
should be stagnant, no LED, no
Yeah.
no changeability to it. It's a accessory directional sign.
Yeah, there you go. It's not for the intent of advertising the business at all.
Correct. All of that gets put into their square footage for the, monument sign or wall sign, yes.
Mr. Bush, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering, and again, we don't have our attorney here. As we proceed with this, I know there's a couple of people, I think, that agree with me that we probably don't need in and out signs. So as we do this, is there certain signs we can prohibit opposed to other ones? And I'm going to use your vacuum as an idea. The new Tommy's Car Wash down the road. You're an idiot if you need a sign to see vacuums this way. I'm sorry, they're 7 feet tall and there's 20 of them right out in the front of the thing. I do not need a vacuum sign.
How do you
on Tommy's
see-
Car
do you-
Wash.
Do you see a vacuum sign on the top of that?
I didn't, but you mentioned possibly.
there won't be a vacuum sign. That sign package has already been approved, and there
That's
won't,
fine,
there
but I'm
won't be
just
a
saying.
vacuum sign on every one of those.
That's just an example.
Yes.
Because in and out, we all know there's driveways. We don't need an in and out sign. Can we prohibit an in and out sign?
By setback, probably, because no one's gonna put an in and out sign if the setback is 15, 20 feet back.
I agree with Mr. Andre's comments about directional signage interior to the site. But I don't know if we can say we can have one and not the other. That,
Well,
I'm not
and
sure.
already having them on other sites per the ordinance, because we aren't regulating them today, case in point is the McDonald's.
Sure.
I don't think that we can exclude them solely anyways.
We can change our ordinance.
Sure. Yeah.
Johnson.
I have to agree with Mr. Bush. I do not think that any sign that is designed to provide directional information, I think should come from, the road commission, for example. I mean, it needs to be, if there's going to be if there's a need, such a need for a directional sign to tell you how to get in and outside of a property, it should be done with traffic flow in mind and all of that, and all of that. Because, I mean, theoretically, I'm listening to the conversation. No, mind you, I'm still pretty new with the whole planning commission thing-ish. But what's to keep a strip mall from putting 4 or 5 signs out that says, my entrance is this way, my exit is this way? You can't, I don't want to have, 4 or 5 signs at every driveway that
Right.
say, hey, this is how you
Well-
get in here.
And that was my
Yeah,
saying that one in, one out at each entrance is it, and putting that in black and white.
yeah.
If we allow it, if we decide to go that way, that would, there's gonna be certain items that we're gonna wanna put specific language in there, so there's no gray area in this, it's gonna be black and white. That's the point of us having this brainstorming session tonight, is to get all that out in the air, because I just wanna make sure that there isn't excessive at the road.
Would there be a way to require a recommendation from the road commission to approve that sign, or to be able to apply for that sign?
The only problem is if you, depending on how the ordinance is written and the location of that, they only have control in the right of way. Once you get out of the right of way, they have no control on the site.
Gotcha.
And they won't control a business sign.
No.
They won't.
Correct. So if we say that they have to
I wasn't saying necessarily.
outside of the right of way,
Right.
Yeah.
then that kills their authority.
Gotcha.
So anything within the right-of-way, we don't have any jurisdiction over, we can't regulate signs. Well, that probably eliminates the in and out problem then, because wouldn't most of the in and out signs be more likely to?
The ones at the McDonald's are very close to the curb.
Oh, yeah.
They're very close to the curb, so how,
I'm surprised they haven't been hit by a plow truck.
I agree. So I don't know if those were done legally, illegally.
They've been there since I was 5.
I understand, right, exactly.
I was on the township board when that got built, and there was some discussion and some discipline after that happened as to who let that happen.
Right.
That was not,
Just making it all up to Jeremy's review, and he's the one who gets it.
yeah, Jeremy wasn't here. This predates him, but yeah,
That's fine.
that got some talk on the board. More and more businesses I see, this is a thing, and I'm not talking McDonald's. You got drive-through dry cleaners now. You got drive-through pharmacies. You got drive-through everything. You can pull up to Kroger's, and they will bring your groceries to your car. It's everything. I don't think I want to ban them or anything, because in the zoning board of appeal meetings, it's going to be 45 minutes to 2 hours on every single meeting. Whereas right now, we've got that pretty cut and dry.
Yep.
I don't.
Any.
Have any.
So I don't want to start to burden that. I think we should have some parameters and give you some guidelines to work with. I wrote in my notes when we first started the discussion, no more than 4 feet, and I'm kind of leaning now towards maybe 3.5 feet overall height, period. And just limiting the number not square footage and the number per entrance and exit. If you've got a strip mall with multiple businesses in it or a unit development like that, still it applies. No more than 2 at each entrance exit.
My only thing for an interior one, if it was a strip mall in that scenario, let's just say they have a board that says there's 2 buildings, these 4 are here, these 4 are here. Each one should have to be able to put their
Okay.
name at least on a board and give them X amount of square foot.
So I know Starbucks is this way.
If the
Correct.
sign is invisible
you-
from the road.
But these are interior, these aren't at the road. That's my point. This is
Right,
one.
but like, because I see what you're saying. But my thing was is like if I pull into a strip mall and I can see the front of the strip mall.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's pretty cut and dry unless there's a drive-through.
Yes.
And most of us know that you should go, if you don't see it on one side of the building, it's more than likely on the other side of the building.
I was just gonna make a comment. Don't we all agree, I think, maybe not, that people know where they're going?
No.
When I leave my house and I'm going somewhere, I know exactly where I'm going. I know where it's at. I don't need a sign to take me anywhere.
No,
So I just don't,
I agree with you. As Mr. Anderson said, I think sometimes things are evolving. So like grocery delivery, you pull up for groceries now, wayfinding to direct you, because those are usually unique, right? And those can be in different locations. That I see value in.
I agree with that.
And so that's why I say on the property, not as much, what I was just showing Sarah, I looked up the McDonald's as we're sitting here. The one on, it's kind of ridiculous, the one right off a hill. It's literally there, it's
on the road.
It's on the driveway. I mean, you come on. The one I think is even worse is the one on Fenton. It's set 20 feet back off you can't even see it. So what's the purpose of it? And so that's why I lend myself to not even worrying so much about that, but on the properties as, places like that, and there's different businesses, and as businesses are evolving, they're offering different services, and it's hard to get to. Like if you go to, like, for instance, Walmart, I use an example. I didn't even know they had a pharmacy there. A drive-up pharmacy that you could go up to. If they had better signage, I may have been more aware of things like that. And so I think wayfinding interior to the property is good. I think it has to be managed. I think everybody's on, that idea that it needs to be managed. But I'm not a fan of having wayfinding at the entrance. The entrance is the wayfinding.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't
I think it's
disagree.
kind of almost semi-optional. If provided, additional signage must not be any taller than this and this number.
I like that 3-foot number Larry came up with.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that's a good number.
I don't know.
Or 3.5.
I was surprised it was.
Yeah, I'm no more than 3.5.
6.
I was shocked that we didn't have anything in there that, I'm surprised this hasn't come up before, honestly. But that's what we're here for today, and it sounds like 3 foot is sufficient. Sounds like I'm hearing, and 4 square feet is, 4 is an even number, makes it a lot easier, 2 by 2.
3's an odd.
Well, what I'm going to say, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
4 square feet when you're sitting in your car 500 feet away, that's not excessive. That's a good size, because I want to know where I'm supposed to turn before I'm like, whoop, it was it, So the 4 square feet I thought about it too, because I thought, wow, that's a lot. But in my mind, it's
It's just
2
2
foot
by
by 2
2,
foot
yeah.
when you're going 45 miles an hour. I can see that, especially on the main roads. Like that could be something.
Hopefully you're not going 45 miles an hour and an interior of
I was gonna say,
Have you seen me drive?
hey, you
No,
don't
but
know.
like when you're approaching, I'll go back to my bank example. You're approaching the banks on Saginaw Street. Speed limit's 55 there.
Yeah.
So I don't see an issue with the force up to, not up to 4 square feet, not to exceed. However, how I really want to word that.
Not to exceed,
Put it in the sign package to be
Right.
reviewed by planning and zoning.
so no,
and I like the limit. Once you take these signs, and that bigger sign comes down.
right.
It's all 1
Well,
square foot.
well, and that's something else that we may want to take a look at too, is if the signs, the overall sign, dimensions are sufficient for today's day and age? Is 32 square feet sufficient for a building that's less than 100 feet off the right of way? That's only 8 by 4, that's a sheet of plywood. Is that big enough?
As Mr. Bush said, in most cases, after the first time, you know where you're going.
I agree. That's
Type
that's
it
my-
into your GPS and
Is that a big enough sign to go on a building that you can see it from the road? 100 feet back? That's smaller than 4 by 8.
I have decent eyesight, so it's
Well,
not
I'm
a
just-
problem to me.
I'm just saying that sign right there is smaller than 4 by 8,
You're right, yeah.
and that's sufficient.
I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying we need to change them, I'm just
Yeah,
saying, the problem is that there's instances where it's 32 square feet, and if you're gonna deduct this square footage, I think this needs its own calculation in the package, not to deduct from wall signs or monument signs. That's my point.
I'm okay with that.
I am too.
What do you think for a number-wise, maximum number? 4, up to 4, up to 5?
Maybe per square foot of site, right? Depends on the size of the site.
No more than 2 per driveway would be my thought.
Interior, not,
Interior, oh,
Trying to prohibit the driveway ones.
I almost think if it's interior, you're off the main road and maybe 1 per business should be sufficient. But I'm also thinking with drive-throughs, that could get a little,
that's my
yeah.
point is up to 4 is a nice even number.
Or would you rather regulate perhaps by just not allowing them spaced a certain distance from one another? So maybe then you can allow more as long as they're not within 20 or 50 feet from one another. So they're not just boom, 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 boom all along the.
Mr. Bush?
I'm thinking about El Cerro, and auto places, because they've got all kinds of stuff going on there. So they've got large sites, and you're gonna say they can have 4, but a In-N-Out Burger gets 4 too. That's not right. We have to say, it's gotta be a size thing. I think. Now, maybe not, but I think it does. You gotta give them some leeway when their site's 10 times bigger than the next guy.
1 per 10,000 square feet of, or
Some
1
number.
per 20,000 square foot of site property. I don't know. 2 per 10.
2 per 10, 1 may not be sufficient enough for some of these businesses, but if you want to say 2 per 10,000 square foot of the building or of the site, because that makes a difference too. That's my point.
Everything's different. They're all different.
I understand, that's why it's easier to just say up to. Most businesses aren't gonna ask for more than 2. The ones that I've been having issues with only wanted, it was 4 total, but 2 interior and 2 at the road.
Okay.
That's the most anybody's ever asked for.
I like that. I think that's a good, you got 2 at the road, entrance, exit. I pull an entrance, drive through here. Or example of a car wash, enter here. So you're not, where do I go? And pull up to the wrong side. So up to 4, but no more than 2 at an entrance or exit. The 4 on the property, but no more than 2 at the entrance or exit.
I agree with Larry's statement, but none at the road and 4 at the interior.
So you want to eliminate all
Yep,
in and out at the road.
that's what I'd like to do. Now, there's 9 of us, so.
Mr. Johnson?
So is there a way that we can limit this based on a divided entrance and exit? So that you would be allowed no driveway, entrance and exit, if it's just one big open in and out? But then limit it and say, okay, well, if you have a 1-lane single in, you can have an in sign.
I agree with that.
If you have an one-way out, you can have an out sign.
Yes.
To prohibit people from pulling in the out. But if you have an in and out in the same driveway,
Prohibited.
is it really even needed?
Good point.
Yeah.
I think one thing I need to research too is if you can say in and out. And I think it's possible you can, because I think that serves a compelling
Or
interest to protect
entrance-
traffic safety.
Exit and entrance, it
Yep,
does,
yep,
yeah,
or
whatever
exit
it is,
entrance.
same.
So I think you can do that, but I think, I just want to still warn everybody that though, once you get into the interior of the site, then I think you're kind of regulating the same thing, whether it's a wayfinding directional or whether it's an advertisement,
I think
so.
we're all,
But I think you're good with having, from a little bit of research, and I can do more, I think you're okay with specifying entryway signs or
right.
entrance, exit,
Ingress and egress.
egress, ingress, egress, so.
Okay, so you're saying no to entrance. I think,
With the exception of what Mr. Johnson said. I
Of
think
one way.
If it's a one-way, I think that needs to be there.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But as far as
If it's
open
two,
driveway,
yeah.
where you got
Okay.
multiple, you have in and out.
in my scenario, you pull up to the site, you have an in, and then you have an out right and an out left. Are they allowed to have?
No.
In and out? Okay. Okay, so you're,
That
But if-
driveway's in and out.
but if it's one
Ingress, egress.
one-way directional, yes.
Yes.
Got it.
That's just me, though. Ask everybody else.
Nothing for two-way traffic. Any two-way traffic would be nothing. If you have restricted ingress egress being right in, right out, I think it makes it a little, I
Right.
think. as Mr.
And I think a lot of
makes-
that would be put in the right of way with the,
Yeah,
case in point is over there by Panera. On Saginaw Street, you can only make a right out of there. But all day, every day, it doesn't matter. I watch people
Right.
make a left out of there all day long.
And you're
So-
doing it for the rest of your life.
Well, and you will, because a lot of the restrictions the road commission has now, and I fought with them when I was in my other municipality. If you look at the Meyer on Irish Road, the Meyer one is not mountable, and it has grass, it's a grass island. If you look at the one that's in front of the Hamlin Pub, it is low, it is concrete in the middle, and there's a sign, and it is mountable. That is their new standard. I fought with them, and I said, we don't want that. Why would you make it easy for them to mount this curb? It's for safety reasons. They don't want somebody to hit it and then and explode their car, their suspension, and fly off and cause more damages.
Maybe they won't do it again.
There's the 2 second of why that is where that is now. But, yeah, I did have conversations with them, and they weren't budging. So.
Sounds like Mr. Amat will do a little bit more research, propose something we can review and comment on.
Yeah.
You want, so I think originally we were thinking there would be, maybe be a 10-foot setback for the ingress and egress signage. Is that too far if they are truly serving
Out of the
the,
right-of-way.
just gotta be out of the right of
Well,
way?
I agree.
And out of the clear vision, the required clear vision?
Right, and I think once you get out of the
Triangle.
right of way, I think that
Yeah.
gets out of there. But my point is that the monument sign says 10 foot behind the right of way. This one, we're saying, is between the right of way and the monument sign, or anywhere in there. As long as it's out of the right of way, we're okay with that.
And not in the clear vision triangle, I would imagine, too.
yes.
Okay. So,
And 9 times out of 10, the right of way takes care of that. You won't have
Right.
issues with that.
While you're rewriting that, are we okay with just putting right in the, as his next draft comes to us no more than 3 feet high? Just make
Yeah, that's,
You
so
want to do 3? Is good for everybody?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
4 square feet as well.
3 feet, yep.
4 square feet, no more than 3 feet high.
Do you still want the 4 additional of that dimension throughout the site?
I'd say,
We could limit advertising too.
You might want to say something about as appropriate
limit
to site, no
advertising,
more
too.
than 4. Something along those lines. Try to give them a little bit of
Just
direction.
make it,
Trying to think about the,
it has to follow
Size.
whatever the
Square footage?
building facade is, or
maybe, just think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's gonna be tough.
I know, because
Because in one you can play both sides of the coin there. You can say, well, it's based on the square footage of the building, but then you can also say it's the square footage of the site.
and they can always come to BZA.
If we don't have to, why? That's,
Just saying, they can.
you're absolutely right. We can't stop anybody from making applications, but if we can clarify things here and we don't have to do that, let's not.
I agree.
So,
We good for today?
we have, also in front of you the, Excel list. And you can see, what we've done, what we've accomplished, what we've already seen but had no actions on, no changes needed. Excuse me. Excuse me. Jill and Andy and I are looking for direction for new year. What kind of things, or where do we want to kick it off at, so we can knock this list out and hopefully in 2025 or early '26 be done with the list.
So the list is kind of interesting too. So the major amendments of the master plan are at the very end. So if you have anything from the master plan that you remember you worked out through that process, those potential amendments are listed there. We still have that running list of a major memo that Giffords Webster provided you all in 2022. Don't know if that's becoming to be outdated and we want to scrap that and move forward in a different light. And then the middle area is kind of what staff has discovered throughout staff's time of being difficult to interpret and clarity things we've done, as well as a couple topics like tech village stuff and electric vehicle charging, mobile MRIs. Those were kind of decided that we weren't moving forward at this time. So it's kind of split up into three parts.
I don't know, personally, I like the idea when you guys see something that this is becoming an issue, bring it to us and we'll talk about it. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
that Just because it was on the master plan that we need to go through and feel obligated to do something, things change.
We don't have, it just needs because it was in the master plan, I feel it's a good idea to at least look at it. If we don't make any actions on it, so be it, that's fine.
Just my opinion.
Yeah. One thing that I will say, the village mixed use section, that is one of my higher priorities, not a high priority at this time because we don't have any applications for it, but we may in the future. On the future land use map, it says village mixed use and designates areas for that. There's nothing in the ordinance that gives me any direction for village mixed use.
You gotta bring that up.
So that's one thing going through the book. Again, after we've done some of these and seeing what other sticky notes I have in my book here that we were looking at to change, that was one that kind of stuck out to me.
Jeremy, looking at this list, when you look at the third category where it says status, obviously a lot of them is already done.
Yep.
So like the first one I come to that's been discussed and not adopted is swimming pools. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 5 after that haven't we just discussed. It doesn't look like there's very many on this whole page that haven't been adopted. Majority of them have. So I guess my question is this list something you'd like to see all of these gone through? Because it seems like we could handle most of these rather quickly in the first half of '25.
Right, and I think a lot of them, if you look at the third page where it says major amendments as identified by the master plan, you have a lot of things that are zoning districts. And a lot of those, we could say, okay, your homework for the next month is to go through them.
Sure.
If you see any discrepancies or things you want to add or delete, we can go through there and we can take care of those. And at the next meeting, we'll have a memo from Giffords, and we can kind of do it that way too. I don't want to be the only one bringing things up. If you guys see anything, please bring it to our attention, and we will
Right.
definitely do that as well. But one thing that stands out is in the master plan, it talks about condensing some of our commercial zonings, specifically PO and OS. In my opinion, I don't think we need both of those. And maybe that's not something we can discuss now, but in 4 to 6 years, we're gonna be doing another master plan anyways, at least starting it. So maybe at that time, that's when we can do all that and we can discuss it, this year, and then in a couple of years, when we do the new master plan, we can say, okay, wipe this out, combine it with this one, now we only have 3 business jurisdiction or districts instead of 4. It's essentially the same, it's just there's a few more things that you can do in PO that you can't do in OS, and they're minuscule, in my opinion.
EV charging sticks out to me.
That's one that.
That's one we brought up, but we
brought
kind
up,
of decided at this time we won't move forward with.
and I don't know if there's been any more push, because that was about, was that a year ago now?
Probably 2 years ago.
Was it?
Close to. Discussed at May of 2023.
So, yep, we're over a year now. When you say EV, you want separate charging stations? Or
I don't know. I
or you
just
want-
think it's a
okay.
discussion. I mean, they're coming.
We want to just bring back
They're
that.
not gonna stop.
We could,
I think we need to get.
yeah. We can bring back, I mean, that was part of the reason of keeping some of those here on the list is
Yeah.
because they kind of just hung there for a little bit and there wasn't a real certain intent to move forward at the time, but it's easy for us to bring back the memo and see how you feel about it now.
Because you're thinking EV charging stations solely like a gas station is today, and/or
That's one.
parking spots in existing businesses.
All the above.
Got it.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be next month. I'm just saying that's.
No, yeah, that's, yeah.
It's, I think would be a priority of that
Sure,
list.
yeah. Another one too, for me, is parking standards. There was, I know we've changed we did to industrial warehousing,
Size of it too.
right.
We changed the size of the parking stalls.
Yep, so they were 9 by 18, now they're 10 by 20, so that helps for all new businesses and remodeled businesses. But commercial could be another issue. Something else to look at as far as kind of along the same lines of employees and potential customers at peak position. I know it's gonna be a little harder because most industrial doesn't have customers coming in and out. Like, let's just say a Meijer comes in. Do they need that monster parking lot like you see in the one in Davison? Just for an example. Or is it, you can name any business, any big business. I mean, look at the Walmart parking lot that we have now. Is that thing ever full? No, except for probably the holidays. But
It's not.
If.
if, especially now with everybody ordering online and having it delivered to their home.
Exactly.
Do we want a sea of parking? Do we want to add land bank parking like we did in the industrial sites? Keep that land open, and if they say, hey, we need more parking, we say, okay, go. Show it on your site plan. They don't have to come back before you guys. They just say, hey, we want to enact the land bank parking. I say, pull a building permit, and away you go. As long as it's what was on the plans originally.
Sounds good. Move on to committee reports.
We are, I've had conversations with Supervisor Bennett, and we are actively looking for replacing Mr. Yancho, our empty seat that we have, now that he's our new acting treasurer. If anybody has any recommendations for a candidate, I would greatly appreciate it, so I can forward them off to him. He has a few people that he knows of that may be potential client, or potential
Candidate.
commissioners, but, you know, if you know anybody, please recommend, and we'll go from there.
One comment I'd like to make, and I was going to bring it up, and I don't know. I think probably maybe more on the township board, they went through quite a bit of work with the police department and stuff to eliminate the commercial vehicle parking at the Walmart parking lot,
Yes.
which looks great now, is I love not, seeing 25 trucks parked there when I go in. I have a couple pictures on my phone. I have noticed 2 of the trucks that I recognized from all the times I drove in and out of that parking lot are now parking for days at a time at the Speedway gas station at Perry and Belsey.
Interesting.
So you kind of pull in each driveway there, and there's a little offset because there was future development potential with those farms. There's one parked in each one. I got pictures on my phone.
Send me an email to that effect, and I will forward that off to code enforcement, because we do not allow that
Yeah,
either.
well, that was my thought too. I'm like, all we did was move the problem, but all right.
We did, and that was our concern, that was discussed at the board meeting, but If it's not approved at the site, it's not approved at the site, so regardless, you
I will
can't.
send you those
Just gonna-
pictures.
Please do, send me the pictures and send me the addresses of where they are.
I mean, they can rent space from Bill across the street if they want, right?
Exactly, there's specific places in the
places to park.
township that allow you to park those things, and the gas stations are not one of them, Walmart is not one of them.
Right.
Retail places.
Retail, commercial and retail, no,
Gotcha.
that's not allowed.
So, okay, thanks, I'll get that to you.
Township Board?
So we are looking for someone to replace Jude Reardon. Our goal is to have the spot filled by the 13th of February. I think we have 13, 15 applicants right now. There were questions that were sent out. It was originally a one question, why would you like to be on the board? And Dennis Limita and Supervisor Bennett came up with a list of additional questions, emailed them to all of the candidates. Haven't had, that just happened this week, so we haven't had a lot of response, but our goal is to narrow it down to 5 and then do the interviews in public and voting in public.
I have a question for you, Sarah.
Sir?
So knowing that we have an open seat, it's just a thought. Just so Grand Blanc Township looks good, wouldn't we take the next person in line with the most votes? And then we can say, the people put them here? We didn't? That's the right thing to do. Just a thought.
I will relay that
I mean, I understand that they still have, it's a fill-in, and they would still have to run again. But somebody lost by like 5 votes.
Sure.
Isn't that the next person that should be on this board? By the people of this community? Just a thought.
Not to disagree with you, but I don't want to get too off
Well, that's
topic.
fine,
It's
that's
outside
fine,
of
but-
this meeting.
I was gonna say,
I will relay your
I can give you the
message.
statutorial opinion on that.
The people put that there.
Well, I mean, it's something to take into consideration, well, with.
State statute.
Not our decision.
I was gonna say state.
I didn't say it was, I just,
State
but
statute
that's the
dictates
right
that
thing to do.
opinion right there.
There we go. State law.
State law dictates how that operates.
I know, I didn't say it.
And then that, and whoever gets appointed will have to run at the midterm to keep their seat.
Any other business?
I have a question for Sarah.
Sure.
What's the status of the gas station moratorium? And where's it? at?
Jeremy, would,
You met my buddy Dave.
So the moratorium expired December 25th, 2024. Before that expired, I took language in front of the board that was approved and recommended up to the township board level that they approved unanimously, like you did here. It is 1 mile from any existing gas stations is the new requirement for any new applications for gas stations. As the road goes, not as the crow flies.
Okay,
Good.
And that was approved unanimously.
okay.
ZBA, there's
Nothing.
nothing?
Nothing, we haven't had any, except for the last one that was at Maple Road, that was a few months ago.
Canceled.
They haven't, reapplied, so that's ongoing, dealing with that.
You heard anything?
Nope. So, that's ongoing. We canceled January's, and we're not quite ready to cancel February's yet. We could probably squeeze one in if it was a simple ZBA case, but I don't have any pending, site plans on my desk right now, so I don't think there's going to be.
Last month.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:55 PM.
Ooh.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Anderson. Support.
Support.
Johnson. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are adjourned.